meeting of Norwood City Council is hereby called to order. Please rise for the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, as a body we congregate in these council chambers. We pray for thy divine guidance, that we may do all things well, according to thy holy will. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bonzo.
Here.
Mr. Clark.
Here.
Mr. Thompson. Here. Ms. Stevenson. Mrs. Hannerhan.
Present.
Mr. Sanker. Mr. Breeden.
Here.
We do have 5 members present, so we have a quorum, so we will proceed. I would like to propose to amend the agenda to move introductory readings of resolutions to right following the adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting. We have guests in attendance, and in deference to their time, I prefer that we go ahead and make that presentation earlier in the evening. So, Mr. Bonsall?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I move that we amend the agenda as you stated.
Seconded by Mr. Breeden. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bonzo.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Hannerhan.
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yes, sir.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. Next are the minutes of the September 25th, 2018 meeting. They were previously distributed by email. Mr. Clark.
Move to approve the minutes as of read.
Seconded by Mrs. Hannerhan. Is there any discussion? Mr. Breeden.
Thank you, Madam President. Due to my absence of last meeting, I will abstain from this vote.
Thank you, Mr. Breeden. Any other discussion? The motion on the floor is to accept the minutes as distributed. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bonzo.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Hannerhan.
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Abstain.
I vote of 4 in favor and 1 abstention. The motion passes. We will now move on to introductory readings of resolutions. Would you all like to come forward? The members who are here tonight from the group that painted the tank for us. Come on up here. I know that not everybody was able to come. I talked to a couple of people that were not able to make it this evening, but we're very happy that you're here. So you have a resolution before you, Mr. Clark?
I'd like to move that we have all 3 readings, the first in its entirety and the second and third by caption only.
It takes 6 to
Okay,
suspend, so I
so
think we can
we
just
just
do
have
the
to do the
first
first.
reading in its entirety.
Thank you,
That's
thank
okay?
you.
Second by Mr. Breeden. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bonzo.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Hannerhan.
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yes, sir.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. Please have the reading in its entirety.
Resolution recognizing and thanking those who restored the M60A3 tank and cleaned up and planted flowers at Victory Park in observation of the 100th anniversary of Armistice Day on November 11th, 2018. Whereas a group of people who volunteered to restore the M60A3 tank and to clean up and plant flowers at Victory Park on the northwest corner of Montgomery Road and Mills in the heart of the city of Norwood to make Victory Park more attractive and enjoyable, and to enhance Victory Park's rededication on Sunday, November 11th, 2018, in observation of the 100th anniversary of Armistice Day, the day of the cessation of hostilities on the Western Front of World War I between the Allies and Germany, a war in which 40 citizens of Norwood sacrificed their lives in military service to the United States of America. And whereas these volunteers included the following people: Susie Hennica, Tom Hockney, David Wolf, Dave Bentz, Ken Lancaster, John Winters, Layden Wilder, Stuart Smith, Jeff Toole, and Jim Holden. Of these volunteers, Misters Lancaster, Winter, Wilder, Smith, Toole, and Harden are all active of a 501c3 organization called the United States Army Brotherhood of Tankers, whose members can be found throughout the world. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of Norwood, State of Ohio, that the council thanks these volunteers for their active and exemplary service to the city of Norwood, Ohio, in this instance by their restoration of the M60A3 tank, the cleanup of Victory Park, and the planting of flowers there, giving rise to the possibility that the work of these volunteers may inspire others to make similar volunteer efforts to beautify some of the city's other shared areas.
Does council have any comments? Mrs. Hanahan.
I want to say thank you very much. When I went past there, what a difference what you did make. It really is beautiful. Thank you very much and for all your service.
I must say that I went up and it was the hottest day of the year when you first started scraping and sandblasting that, and poor Susie was up there sweating, and she was on her hands and knees weeding in between the bricks around the tank of all the bricks of the folks who purchased bricks for their service in the armed services, and it looks amazing. So thank you so much for your work. It really it just makes the park look so much better, and we appreciate it. Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you as well. I think it's great anytime anybody wants to take time and volunteer to help take care of our parks, and the fact that you chose Victory Park, which is our central park, and our park honoring our veterans, just really appreciate it, and I want to thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Braden, did you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I too want to mirror other council's thoughts. Also want to thank you for your service to our country and for the service to our city of Norwood. It doesn't surprise me that people like yourselves are doing this for our town, and really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And Mr. Bentz, it's good to have you back on the other side of the chambers.
It's a little different here than I've observed before.
You want to, if you all want to speak, if you can, you come up to the microphone so people can hear.
A donation, though.
It was a donation, trust me.
If I could,
Come up to the microphone so people at home can hear you.
I'd like to express my sincere appreciation not only to you folks, but Mayor Tom Williams and Pete Tepe from Public Works and the guys at Public Works. They took care of getting the fence down, making sure that we had water and electric, and everything just went right down the line. And I really appreciate those folks helping making that happen. So I just want to thank them. Thank you.
When somebody asked me, like, is this going to be okay that we do this? And I said, well, who's going to do it? And when they gave me the list of names, I'm like, you're in good hands. These are good people. So, and is Jim Holden here? That's you. You're a member of the police department now?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if you all knew that. So he's one of the newer members of the police department.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were just here not long ago being sworn in.
Yes, ma'am.
So you jumped right in, sir. Thank you.
I've been in contact with these guys for quite a few years. I just twist of fate.
Well, you hang out with good people, trust me. And I do have a copy for each of you. There are 10 copies here. I know not everyone was able to be here this evening, but I do have a copy for each of you.
One thing I did want to mention, we're going to be selling bricks for all the veterans to go to the Pathway of Freedom around the tank up there. And we haven't got a price yet on the actual cost of the bricks. We have a price on the engraving and all that. That'll be released soon. We're going to make every effort to get that information out because we would like to have those bricks in place by Veterans Day this year. So if you're on Facebook, I'm Dave Betts, and if you could just, if you know of veterans who would be interested in having the brick up there, have them get a hold of me or Susie Henniga. We're co-chairs of the Victory Park Veterans Association, and we'll get you on the list so we know who to get a hold of as soon as we have the right information. So,
If they're not on Facebook, maybe I'll put it on.
absolutely. Yes. Call the American Legion at 396-7337.
And if you get that out to us, we can push it out on.
I appreciate it.
Mr. Watson?
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you all.
Don't go.
And I just want to recognize, I mean, Dave, it's actually interesting that Dave's here and Dave's a part of it because Dave's name is in front of Victory Park on the stones because you were around at when they redid it in the last time. So it's nice that even though you don't live in the city of Norwood anymore, you're not in council anymore, I mean, you're still just as involved and to really help facilitate and help make sure that that stays there. So we really appreciate that and appreciate everything that you all do. So.
I appreciate the city of Norwood more than you guys would ever know. You know, I moved out of Norwood. It was time is, I love my neighbors where I'm at, but they're not Norwood neighbors.
Sure.
And there's a huge difference between that and here. So I appreciate what you got. Thank you very much.
Mr. Benz? Mr. Benz, could you introduce everyone who's standing up there with you so that everyone knows who they are?
I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
I'm Jimmy
Come to the
Holdren.
microphone so people can hear.
Jimmy Holdren. I'm Ken Lancaster.
Hold on. Retired.
What's that?
That's not all you are.
Speech. One thing I want to say
A retired
is,
police officer.
Oh, excellent.
one thing I want to say is, United States Army Brotherhood of Tankers was very proud to do this tank. It means a lot to me. I grew up here, graduated high school here, worked for the city. I've known Donna for many years. I worked with Mayor Williams on the police department. It was our honor to come in and do this for the city of Norwood. Like Dave, this is always home. I don't live here anymore, but I have family that's still here. This will always be my home. When somebody asks where I'm from Norwood, Ohio. I just want to say thanks to the city for helping us get this done, with all the things that they provided for us. And we're just proud to do this. This is something that we do to keep the armor heritage alive. We've done several tanks. Some of our other battalions in different locations of the United States are all on this restoration thing. We're finding these tanks and we're bringing them back to the way they used to be in their prime. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, and if we can help out in the future, we'd be more than happy to. Thank you.
I'm Layman Wilder. I'm the National CSM for USABO. We really appreciate you all having us come down and help you out with this. But our national XO drove all the way from Washington, D.C. He is from Norwood originally, and he's not able to be here. He works in the Pentagon. But when we said we was going to tank in Norwood, he drove all the way from D.C. out here to take care of it. His name's Major Stuart Smith. So we thank you all for having us.
Thank you.
I am Susie Hennica. I'm kind of the odd man standing for obvious reasons, but also because these fine gentlemen are Army and Marines. I'm United States Navy. It is an honor to do what we do at Victory Park and other places here in Norwood, to withhold the community standards. I hope it influences other people to do as well.
And Susie's here. Yeah, thank you so much, Madam President. And Susie and David are David Wolf. I mean, they're on Memorial Day this year. I mean, they were here for hours and hours and hours working on that park before Memorial Day, getting it ready so that it would be an honorable place for the veterans. So, I mean, she's here. David Wolf is here. Year in and year out. I mean, thank you all very much for coming back to help. And it's just incredible to people that really care for that. So we appreciate that.
Say those of us who are out there on Memorial Day, you recognize a few of these people because they're out there every year after year after year. So, thank you. It's my pleasure to do these. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you again. Thank you. I'm David. Yes.
One more
great.
comment. Thank you, Madam President.
Absolutely.
Give my father a shout out. He's a Marine, Semper Fi, and I appreciate all your comments. However, we as Norwoodians are the ones that are honored here. So once again, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You gave me a challenge coin, that's why I was... So thank you, Ken, for my challenge coin. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. All right, we will go ahead and move on. We have no public hearings, or we do have one request to address council, but it's not on an agenda item, so we'll deal with that a little bit later. We have no standing committee reports or ordinance readings, so we'll move on to other requests to address council. I have one request, and that's Diane Ficker. Would you like to come forward and give us your address, and then you'll have 5 minutes to address council?
I'm a person with AIDS and lots of visual aids. But I thought we had a picture. I really just explain it.
We maybe put it up here so you can see it while you're on the camera. Maybe we can have, can you bring it up here, John? Maybe people can see it better.
My name's Diane Ficker. My husband and I own the building at 5001 Montgomery Road. That's where he has his dental practice. We purchased the building back in 1983 from Dr. Shank, and the building was originally built in 1900. The problems began when the Montgomery Road Carthage Avenue project expansion and realignment significantly reduced the sidewalk in front of our property, as you can see on the picture here. It created an asphalt problem in front of the building, which you can barely see here, but it's in the photos that you have. And there's a water line that comes up through the asphalt, and that water line has caused pooling around the pipe. The top of the pipes come off so many times, as you'll see on the photos. It gets fixed, it's fine for 2-3 weeks, and it comes off again. So because of that pooling, the water hits the building and has created significant damage by causing damage to the mortar and the brick. Besides the problem with the pipe, the water line coming up through the asphalt, another problem is the proximity of the sidewalk to the building. So, you know, in the winter, when you have salt and so forth, and metro buses come by, it splashes really bad. So, I'm going to show you a couple of videos right now. Yeah. So you can see.
So when this video plays, it's going to play sideways. We tried to get it fixed. It's just the way the camera recorded it.
So that's the pooling area I was talking about, and under there is the water line that comes up through the asphalt. It's a problem. It's a safety concern as well as damage to our building. This is the first video, and this was taken from the front of our building. Actually, it was taken by my husband. He was in the front door. It's going to take a second. Sorry. got a pole right there. Just so you can know what we're talking about. So, as I stated, I've given you all packets, and it's got photos with dates and so forth, and it'll show you how the damage to the building has just gotten worse and worse and worse. So, my first step that I did is I called the city of Norwood and talked to the safety director. This started back in 2016. Thank you. He told me that I need to contact ODOT, which I did. After many calls, believe me, you know, it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't say that. I was going to say dealing with government, but it took me months to get a hold of the project manager from ODOT, who actually was in charge of the project. He pulled the file, and after reviewing it, he called and told me that all the specifications for the project were given to him by the city of Norwood. The only thing, ODOT did the work, but the city of Norwood gave him the specifications and signed off on the project. Then he suggested I go back to the city, which I did. I talked to the safety director again, and at that point, the safety director told me that everything had been done according to the 561 state route right-of-way, and if it hadn't been done, or if there had been a problem, we would have been approached by the state of Ohio, and they would have asked to purchase some of our property. Well, at this point, my husband, we hadn't received anything, any kind of written documentation or whatever. The safety director told me that there were hearings for the public, which we were not aware of. I don't know if they typically do publications or advertising that they're going to have hearings, but we didn't hear anything. So, you know, nor did we get any kind of written. I would have thought, since they were taking the frontage, they would have given us some kind of documentation or a letter, but we didn't receive anything. So at that point, the safety director referred me over to the assistant law director. I talked to him several times over a period of about 7 weeks. I gave him time to take a look at the property. He finally did go out, and at that point, he said he took somebody from the building department with him. They looked at the building, they looked at the proximity of the building to the street. He didn't feel that there was an issue. He went on to tell me that he felt like the building needed a lot of work, and I said, yes, sir, it does. We planned to have the building tuck pointed, but we were waiting to find out what was going to happen with having it so close to the street. It's silly to tuck point the building at great expense and then have it be damaged come winter with the salt again. So at that point, that was his statement. So we felt like we couldn't agree on anything, and I said, that's fine. And that's when my husband and I hired an attorney. As you know, attorneys cost a lot of money. So the attorney wrote a letter to the city, which he never received a response for. So at that point, our attorney made a couple calls to the city, and again, he had never heard anything back from the city. I'm afraid I don't know who he asked for. I was told the mayor at one point, but then he said, I'm not sure if it was the mayor or not. So rather than proceed with the attorney, I thought, well, I think I'll bring it to city council and see what you guys, see what your thoughts are, to see if we could come up with some kind of resolution. First of all, we've got two issues. We've got all the damage to our building, and it's going to cost a lot to get it fixed. I have bids already. But more importantly, it's the problem with the street. It's been fixed numerous times. Besides it being a safety issue and damaging our building, I'm really afraid somebody is really going to get hurt. I mean, like, if you're in my husband's building, you can feel the vibration as the buses go by, because, rush hour traffic's very fast and so forth, and, it's crazy. And I'm just afraid with a sidewalk that size, especially this corner, somebody walking down, they're going to get hit. So, that's why I'm here tonight.
Comments? Mr. Thompson.
I'm curious if anybody knows if this is, since it looks to me like there's a drainage issue there. I mean, you've got the water pooling.
Yes, sir.
Is the water coming from the exposed pipe, or is that's just a low spot in the road?
It's a low spot. As you can see, if you flip back the pictures, you'll see it. And it's just recently fixed again within the last couple weeks.
Right. Well, it's not being fixed; it's being patched.
I'm sorry.
It's not being fixed; it's being patched.
That's right.
If it was fixed, it wouldn't have to be fixed
again. If you look at the back picture, I just took that. Just recently, the whole thing came off. The whole lid and the pipe itself came off. And I'm just afraid it's going to hit somebody someday, or it's going to cause an accident.
Well, it struck me, and you can see in the video, that we've got a low spot where water is collecting, which doesn't look like it's more than 20 feet from the actual drain down the street. So it seems to me like there's a grading issue with where that water is collecting versus where it's going in. Now, I don't know. My question is, if anybody knows, is that a city of Norwood, or is that a sewer district kind of an issue where we've got drainage issues that aren't working?
Mr. Gears told me that they've made the repairs there several times. So that leads me to believe it's the city of Norwood, unless I'm incorrect.
It says water on it, so I'm assuming it's a water line.
Right, the water line, but it's hard to tell where we should go to get, because to me it seems like that just filling that with patch isn't working because it keeps popping up, which happens with patches. So to me it makes me think that that section of road needs to be redone to eliminate the pooling of the water. There's also lots of pooling of water, I know, that happens at that corner opposite your building. Whenever there's heavy rain, there's typically a lot of backup. So I think it would be great if we could find out, you know, what it would take to actually fix that as opposed to patch that. And I do the committee for streets, so it's probably going to come to my committee for further consideration on how we can do that. So just so you know.
I had just as a point of information, I had a conversation with Mr. Gears, the Safety Service Director, about this. My concern was the sidewalk, that it's so small, with the pole coming up in the middle of it. According to ODOT standards, sidewalks are supposed to be 36 inches, and so there's not enough. But if you notice, on each side of the building, there is a sidewalk that goes like down. The thought was that, according to ODOT, was that it was not their intention to have a sidewalk in front of there, that their intention was to have, it's not on this one, but if you look at, I think it's in here, there's a sidewalk that, or you could see it in the video, there is a sidewalk on, as you're facing the Ficker building, there is a, if you're coming up from Norwood Avenue, when you get to the Ficker building, there is a sidewalk that goes on the side of the building and goes to Carthage Avenue and then comes back up the other side. That is the preferred route for people to walk on the sidewalk. That doesn't do anything about the drainage problem, but that's another issue that...
Right, it doesn't do anything about the drainage, and it doesn't do any good if there's no signage.
I can't hardly hear you.
I say it doesn't address the drainage. And
it does not address the drainage.
It doesn't address, I mean...
But I
drive by there every day, and I wouldn't know that you were supposed to walk around. There's no signs.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
So,
but that's where it is.
Why would ODOT say that? I mean, because the sidewalk is actually our property. Would they just assume that we would let people walk on there?
I think their plan was that people would walk around, and maybe we need to have a sign or something there that says walk this, sidewalk this way or whatever. But again, that does not solve your drainage problem. It's always been something that I wondered about, and so therefore I asked him about it in case that comes up in the conversation. So, Mr. Bonsall?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Yeah, and just kind of a follow-up on that. I mean, ODOT was just going to leave that blank, like have no sidewalk there at all. And so, I mean, at least, I was happy as a pedestrian that they put that the city fought to make sure they have at least something there so that there was some semblance of a sidewalk. But like if you said that's your property right there, then it's unfortunate then that for you that's there. I guess when it comes to the street, I mean, it just comes back to the fact that we have to have funding for street repaving in our budget, and we have to have it like a significant amount of it. And that, I know that we've all been saying that and doing that, and I know that this council has worked diligently, I would say, with the financial recovery plan that was passed and with other things that have happened. They've been very diligent about trying to do everything that we can to get money for streets, and so it's that I just want to commend all of us on, and I think that we just have to keep trying at it because like issues like this are not going to fix themselves. And as much as the city, and I'm not going to say the city, as much as these issues were, ignorable in the past, we can't continue to operate a city that, ignores infrastructure issues like that. I mean, as Eric pointed out, just across the street, there's a low part that it pools. In the center of where Norwood Avenue meets Montgomery Road, I'm pretty sure it floods a lot when it really rains hard. And so it's just things like this that, there's other cities that have some issues like this, but other cities also have ways to work to try to address those issues. Right now, we're essentially, I'm not going to say helpless, but I'm going to say that there's really not a ton we can do because there's so much spending that the city has to do and that we're contractually obligated to do. So that's for another day, but I'm just, it's just a reminder for us as on council that we have to keep pushing forward and we have to keep moving to get more money for streets and really put that aside. So I'm not exactly sure, I have to do some research myself on this, exactly sure about this specific issue and how quick that it can be done. I'm looking forward to, I personally, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion now to refer this to the Parks, Streets, and Infrastructure Committee to start taking a look at this. And Eric, anything that I can do to help, I'm not on your committee, but let me know.
Sure.
So we're going to, hopefully as a council, we're going to at least try to get some answers. I don't know if we're going to be able to implement them, but we'll at least try to move forward to learn more about what it would take to fix it.
So that's a motion that you made to
Yeah,
place
I
it
moved
in
to
this
place
matter
this.
into the Parks,
Yeah.
Streets, and Infrastructure Committee?
Yes.
Second by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion about that? Mr. Braden?
I don't have a discussion about the motion, so
Go ahead. Your
So
discussion is about this?
I have a question. Ms. Vickers, I'm sorry you have to be here today for this. In your mind, what needs done? Do you have something that you think needs done? Like if in the perfect world, we come out and fix it for you, could you tell us what you expect and what you think that needs done there?
I'm looking for two things. I'm looking for the street to get fixed right, and I'm looking for some money from the city of Norwood to fix my building, just the front.
Okay.
Because the brick is so badly deteriorated. So that's what I'm looking for.
Perfectly reasonable. Can I ask you this? What was changed prior to the
The sidewalk.
Carthage Avenue
Project.
reconstruction project? What changed from then to now, and now you're having this issue?
Well, the sidewalk was a full sidewalk, and
Okay.
the water did not come up on the building whatsoever.
Okay, so you had more room in front of your building. Okay.
So you had no splashing.
Okay. And then I saw in your video, you have water coming in your front door
Yes.
when the door's open.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
actually it was my husband. He was leaving, and I told him to take a video because I always think that, you can see what's going on. You
Okay.
can understand.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
But that's what we're looking for. So.
Okay.
So what year,
Is there any other discussion? Mr. Bonsall?
yeah, just a question for Mr. Braden. What year was this completed?
2007.
Is that when it was complete? Because ODOT had told me that's when it began.
Oh, it might have been. It was a 2007 ODOT project. I know that.
I know that,
Mr. Braden?
I'm sorry, Madam President, thank you. My apologies. I really liked the Carthage Avenue. That whole thing that we had going on there was really unique, but I know that there was a lot of accidents there that created lots of hazardous space. So that had to be done, I guess, but it was really unique. So it's unfortunate that this has happened, but change is inevitable. So I guess we'll refer it to the Parks or the Streets
And
Committee.
infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
That's the
will of
motion.
council,
Yeah. We'll be
Okay.
voting on that soon. Any other discussion? So the motion on the floor then is to place this matter into the Parks, Streets, and Infrastructure Committee. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bonzo.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Hanahan.
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yes.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. Do you want to exchange information, contact information to Mr. Thompson, so when he has his meeting, he can notify you of that?
Okay, that would be our next step, though. Like I say, it was our goal to settle this in here rather than, obtain counsel and pursue a suit. That's, was my goal here, so.
All right,
Thank you for hearing.
thank you. And you have your flash drive, yeah, right?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much.
All right. move on to unfinished business. I would like to give you yet another update on the retirees, the ongoing saga of the retirees' health care. The good news is that so far this year, we have paid about a little over $150,000 in back claims. We just received another statement for about $18,000 more from 16 and 17 checks. Some people are receiving checks today and maybe in the not too distant future from previous payments, but about $150,000 so far. About $18,000 more came to the Safety Service Director's office. Those will be verified by him, and then a requisition and purchase order ultimately provided and hopefully paid out. At the last council meeting, I got an email from Mr. Gears today at 8:38 that says, please see the attached, and I made copies for you all. Can you give those over there? As you can see, this was a letter dated September 17th from Bennovation that lets us know that they are terminating our contract. Bennovation is getting out, we're not the only one, Bennovation is getting out of the business of doing this third-party administration. And so our contract ends October 31st, 2018. We normally would have renewed that, automatically renewed it, but they have chosen to get out of the business. So they are notifying us that this is a notice of their intent to terminate their contract. They notify us that our Symetra stopgap insurance also will expire on October 31st, and that if we want to renew that, we need to contact Julie Topol at Haran. And that the 2018 claims have been, apparently since January 1st of this year, being handled by a company called S&S Healthcare out of Minnesota. So my understanding is that Bennovation has been handling the 16 and 17 back claims, and that the 2018 claims have been, since the first of the year, handled by this S&S Healthcare Strategies. When I was notified of this a little bit earlier, I immediately asked Mr. Gears to, we needed to extend this contract. It does allow for a closeout clause that we can extend the contract for 90 days. I thought it was important that all the retirees get what is coming to them from the back pay. I also thought that it was important that we continue that stop-loss coverage, and we definitely need someone to process claims. I just kind of assumed that was going to be done, and so when I got this email today from Mr. Gears, I was like, what? So I went to see him, and he says, I don't have the authority to do what you asked me to do. Council needs to give me direction. So I asked him, if it was okay for me as a liaison between council to talk to Julie Topol from Haran, who is our representative in all things insurance. And he did give me that permission. I left a message for Julie Topol today. She was actually here in the city speaking to the city about our current employees' health care. And so it was after that meeting that she contacted me. She has informed me that she doesn't think would not advise us to extend our contract with Bennovation since they're getting out of it, that she thinks we should just begin a contract with S&S Healthcare, that all of that information can be turned over from Bennovation to S&S Healthcare, and that we should pursue a contract with S&S Healthcare immediately to process claims, because they do it and apparently have been doing it a little bit better than Bennovation has been, which wouldn't be difficult, in my opinion. I asked her about the stop loss. I thought that it was critical, and so did Mr. Stiff. But she said that there hadn't been many claims against that, and that it's a stop loss policy that we pay $22,000 a month for, and that she thought we had very limited liability. that she suggested if we were concerned that something might happen in the months of November and December, that we take the $22,000 that we would normally pay for the policy and put it in an escrow account in case we needed it to pay some claim that came in. And then again, she suggested that we just contract with S&S Healthcare. I'm bringing this to you because I think council needs to decide which way to go. And whatever way you choose to go, I will convey that to Julie Topol. She tried to contact S&S Healthcare today. She was unable to contact anyone, left a message. But she's been in and out of the office all day. So she is in the office all day tomorrow and all day on Thursday, and she will make every effort to contact S&S to get some kind of a contract with them. It is my hope that this will be done and that we will have all of this resolved at the next meeting, whereby we can then pass an ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract for these services. My goal in getting this done has been to make sure that the retirees get every single payment that they are due, and to make sure that they have an opportunity to do this coverage, to submit bills in the future. I did ask her, I have been told that it's a law that people have 2 years to submit claims, and she said that's not a state law. It was in our original plan with the retirees, that she didn't think it was unreasonable, since the retirees are knowing that this plan is being changed. She didn't think it was unreasonable for us to let them know that, maybe we'll give them a year, because the last coverage for medical bills and prescriptions and all that will be December 31st of this year. So that perhaps we would only need to contract with S&S for a year, 15 months, 14 months, 2 months this year and maybe a year next year. But that would be up to you again, whether you wanted to give retirees a year or 2 years or 15 months or 6 months. Again, I need you to have a discussion and let me know how she should proceed. So I'm throwing it out there for you all. I've been very, very busy the last 2 weeks. Mrs. Hannerham.
Thank you, Madam President. Who is responsible? Who will be responsible after October 31st for all of the back claims that haven't been paid? We have been paying this company month after month after month to take care of this. They've already been paid for taking care of it, and they haven't. So who will be responsible? I mean, I've got claims from 2016 out there, or 2015. Who will be responsible for making sure those get paid? Because we have already paid this company to do it. That would be my first question. I sit here, and this has been such a mess, as we all know, and I sit here and I ask our auditor time and time again, for over a month, what are we paying to administer this program? He can't tell me. I mean, how does the auditor not know what he's paying? And he's been paying it for years. Mr. Kevin Schlottman came here, and he knew right off the top of his head how much it was. And we have been paying that company that much for years to take care of this, and they haven't taken care of it. So I would think, aren't they responsible to get us caught up to October? That's the question. Would they be responsible to get us caught up to October 31st?
I have had very similar conversations with people in that organization. I have had more conversations with them than members of my own family. My husband and I, every time the phone rings, my husband goes. They are trying hard to get things out. I told them that once November the 1st hits, we will no longer be processing purchase orders. And so, we need to get this resolved immediately. I can't answer that, who is going to be responsible for it. Right now, there isn't anybody, which is why we need to decide if you want to do a run out for 90 days with Benovation to make sure all of those old claims get paid. We can do that in addition to contracting with S&S. I don't know how you want to do it. My guess is that once Benovation is done with this, they're going to turn everything over. S&S does want to do it. It says they wish to continue in that capacity.
Can we ask Mr. Gary about that, since they've already been paid to do the job? And they haven't done it.
And I want to explain to you how this comes, because I've been enlightened by this whole process. An email will come to the Safety Service Director or the mayor's or Brenda's email or whatever. She has to print all these things out. It's stacks of them. For just the $18,000 that's sitting in her office, the stack is like this big. The documentation is crazy. Then Mr. Gears has to review all the medical claims and all that. Then a purchase order or a requisition gets made, a purchase order gets done. Check gets cut, it gets deposited in the bank. Benovation gets notified that the deposit's been made. They then start cutting the checks, sending them out to people. The bill that comes to us includes the processing fee. I mean, there's the $22,000 for the Symetra. When you get the whole bill, it's the $22,000 a month for the stop loss. It includes the fees per retiree, and it includes all of the C9. There's a separate line for C9 and a separate line for medical. So it's kind of a conglomerate, and unless you sit down and wade through this stack, you wouldn't know.
Wouldn't know what?
You would, I mean, when you said, how can the auditor not know? The
No,
auditor
he
doesn't
would know.
see any of that. The
This is
auditor gets the requisition.
But he's paying the bill. He should know what he's paying for. And I keep hearing we all heard this was too expensive. How do you know when you don't know what you're paying to administer it? There's a difference to what it's costing because of the retirees and what it's costing because of the administration fees. But I guess the question here would be to Mr. Gary at this time, can we go back, would Benovations be responsible for processing all the claims that they have previously been given, since they have already been paid to do that?
Mr. Carey?
It depends on what the contract says. I haven't seen it.
Well, I have a copy. I thought we sent that to you. I have an unsigned copy that I finally got. It wasn't a signed copy, but it was one that was on a computer that she finally sent me. That's how I found out.
Okay.
That's how I found out we had a closeout clause, a runout clause.
Depends on what the contract says.
Mr. Bonsall.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Okay, so it sounds like we have two issues here. The first issue being that after October 31st, we're not going to have somebody that's going to be there to process claims, although we have another company that's willing to, that has been a third-party contractor for Benovation. So that's helpful and that's encouraging. I'd say to make sure, we're going to have to make sure if we don't do any kind of run-out of Benovation. I actually have no confidence whatsoever that if we extended Benovation's contract by any period of time, that they're going to magically come up with all of these claims that people have filed. I think what Benovations is going to have to come up with is a listing basically of every claim that they paid at least in the last 3 to 4 years, so 2015, 2016, 17, and 18. And so that for each specific retiree or their spouse or dependent, so that this S&S healthcare, essentially how I see it, what would happen is that we would just let people resubmit claims once we get to the S&S healthcare. And if we get all the data that Benovations has paid on, so if we get an Excel sheet that says the data service, who it was, who they saw, and how much it was, I mean, to me, if we can get that information, if that's out there, it would allow S&S to be able to move forward from that point and, review. If somebody resubmits a claim that hasn't been paid, they can check to see if it's been paid. So I'm hoping that that's a possibility. Tonight's the first I'd heard about the S&S, and it would be good if that is. The second issue is the insurance, the stopgap insurance. And we had talked about this previously at the end of last year about this insurance plan, and Council Member Hanrahan had brought it up that we were paying this large sum, and there's some good reasons why you want to pay the stopgap, because if there is some catastrophic thing that the city may be liable for, and there are specific people on the plan right now that don't have other health insurance, I've been told. There's one at this point.
And I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, so we thought that there could be somebody that doesn't have other health insurance that's basically that right there alone could be a liability to us. But is it worth spending $20-something thousand a year when there's been no claims of the stopgap? There's 100 and some odd people in the pool, and not one person has exceeded the limit so much that we've hit that stopgap. So, I think to me, I don't know if it's financially reasonable to continue the stopgap, because the chances of us hitting it are very, very slim. I mean, it hasn't been hit in a very long time. So again, there's the two issues there. I mean, it sounds, I'm hoping that Benovation can give us, and that's the one thing I would like for us to ask about. Do they have a easy way to see, or some kind of a list of claims that they paid out? I don't want a stack of 500 pieces of paper, 10,000 pieces of paper. I mean, they
That's
need
what you'll get.
Well, I feel like they have to do better than that, than just canceling on us. So I would hope that they would have that. So, I'm looking forward to at least hearing about the SNS healthcare, and hopefully that's going to allow us to move forward, though.
I can just tell you that I have been trying desperately to reach out to people as they have gotten information about the new retirees healthcare plan, telling them you need, be vigilant, make sure that you contact them, make sure that you get paid, keep copies of all your receipts, send them in right away. It becomes, we need to let these people know on November 1st, where do you send your claims? Are you still going to send them to Benovation, or are we going to trust that they're going to send them on? I don't think so. Or do we contract with SNS, and who is our contact at SNS? All these things we need to give Julie some direction on, Julie Topol, some direction on, so that we can let these folks know. And, I'm not going to rest until every person gets paid what is due to them.
Yeah.
Mr. Braden, you had your hand up before?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I have a couple issues here. Since January 1st, SNS has been handling this. Our contract is with Benovations. I'm assuming they say they're acting in...
They subcontracted with them, like a little backdoor subcontract.
Our contract is with Benovations. So, and also, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time we was in, I don't have this information in front of me, didn't we get an itemized paper from, a bill from Benovation saying exactly what was paid and exactly what it was for, charges? I can remember getting that, the last discussion we had. I don't have it in front of me, but we didn't get that.
I don't ever remember getting that.
I thought Mr. Stiff was here and provided us with that information.
He provided.
Mrs. Hanahan?
He did provide us with a big stack of papers, but he didn't provide, it wasn't itemized, and he was unable to say what money, he paid it, but he didn't know what money went where, or, was this part of the administration fee, or was this what...
He doesn't get that documentation.
Or was this, that's what I'm saying, it was not in there. That's what we
Nor should it be, because this is medical information. These are claims, medical claims that are paid by, from people. So, we do get that, but that's not something that's shared. Mr. Gears gets it because he has to approve the bills.
So are you,
But I'm saying that all of that is not copied and sent to Mr.
No, and
Stiff.
what I'm saying is what we were given wasn't what I asked for. It was, and that's what I said, I wasn't going to go any further with it, but it wasn't what I had asked for. It was for more of what they paid for other things than from what I asked for.
I think it was a breakdown of what was paid from C9 and what was paid from medical, but it wasn't.
Thank you, Madam President. I can remember looking at those. I thought at the time they were itemized bills, and it was kind of clear to me that what we spent and what we spent it on. But maybe I wasn't as scrutinizing as you were.
Mr. Clark.
I think you said this at the beginning, so forgive me. Thank you, Madam President. What is the current status of any claims that Benovation has? Are they... I know that's a fun... it concerns me that I don't know how this works. I have no experience with any of this, but...
Lucky you.
But as far as making sure that what they currently have, like if it's being handed over to someone else... it sounds like they've been processing the claims, but just...
And in all fairness, the city has some culpability here. We weren't paying the bills for a number of years, so they were sitting around. So now that we are in fiscal emergency, we need to get our bills paid. The financial advisors want to know exactly how much, we owe. There has been a concerted effort to get it in and let's get these people paid. I'm hoping that with the latest round of checks that go out, there more of that have gone out, maybe more people have gotten back paid. I have then questioned the dental and vision. Some of that has been paid, most of it hasn't. Then they say, oh, well, we need documentation for that. Well, what happens is, if you are covered on the Millennium Plan, if you have the C9, and you get reimbursed for, so you say you're a police officer or a firefighter, a retired police officer or firefighter, they provide you your health insurance. They take so much money a month out of your check for your health insurance. They also take so much money out of your check each month for your dental and vision if you're a police or fire retiree. All of that information that they submitted for reimbursement for their payments up to the $2,250 is on that pay stub. It's on that monthly stub that they had to send in at the beginning of the year. But so is the dental and the vision. It's on there already. So when they say, well, we need documentation from the policemen and firemen for their dental and vision, you already have it. It's on the stub. It's different for people who are not police and fire. Then you have to make the expenditures and submit those claims. So I don't know what the status is. That I have been on them for the last especially the last 4 or 5 months, but hot and heavy in the last month to get those things paid. And as soon as they come into the city, Brenda Osterday and Mr. Gears have been making a concerted effort to get those things, to look at them, to make sure that everything is good, and that as soon as they can, they get that requisition and the purchase order and the check to them as quickly as possible. The check was sent like 2 or 3 weeks before. The check was deposited into the account, and Benovation was notified, and it still took them about 3 weeks to get the checks even mailed out to the recipients. So it may be a blessing that Benovation is getting out of it, but I don't know how to answer your question. I don't know how many have been paid.
Can I just follow up to that? Mm-hmm. I guess my concern is just handing it over to someone else. Are they going to know? Okay.
And I think that's a conversation that Julie Topol needs to have with S&S and Benovation. It's Mrs. Hanrahan.
Oh, this is going to not be pretty. And one of the things that, and it's unfortunate I'm the only one who gets papers from them because I'm on this plan, but when you see how I have gotten some of these where it says my treatment was in 2020 and they're paying from items, and I have to go through everything and try to figure out what that payment was for, because they have on there they're paying me for services from 2020. And if I'm sure I'm not the only one who received that, it's going to be, how is anybody ever going to figure this out?
2020?
Yes, they paid me for services I had done in 2020. They didn't have dates on them. They just said 2020.
And it's 2018, right?
I called. This is when Melissa occasionally answered my phone, and she said, go ahead and cash the check. I've looked into it. It's right. And she, and I'm like, no, it says 2020. And she's like, just cash your check. Cash the check. I've got it all right there and everything. But it was like 5 sheets of paperwork itemized,
right,
with wrong dates on it. So what is the city going to do, and what will be our liability when people say they didn't pay me and they have no record of paying us? I don't have a record. They can't give us a record that Marilyn Hanrahan was paid for something on January 1st, 2016. They don't have that record. All they have is 2020. How is that? How is any other company going to be able to figure that out? This could get really. And what will our liability be as a city? Because these people could pay, that they have no record they paid me, and we may have been paid. How will this work?
Mr. Bonsall.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. And Councilmember Hanrahan brings up, very valid points and things that definitely have to be figured out. And just back to kind of what I said earlier when it said, I mean, I have no faith that Benovation, I don't even think they know where, even if they have records of some of these things, that claims that haven't been paid that are supposedly sitting in boxes. I mean, Kevin Schlotman, when he was here, he flat out denied that there was any boxes anywhere, and that they're pretty much processing everything. So, I mean, even if we kept Benovations was still here and still on, you all still probably would not be getting paid for 2015 or whatever those things are. So, I mean, it's almost probably a blessing in disguise that they're resigning, if you will, as our claims administrator is probably going to force the city to have to do something. So, I don't know if that's, to me, it seems like there's a field trip in play here for once we find out from S&S exactly what they need. Somebody from the city's got to go down there and just, one, we need to know exactly where all of these records are, and they need to show us where these records are and what kind of records they have. And then two, start, really demanding that we get some of the digital readouts, whether it's a readout of how much we paid to each person for each claim year, and for dental optical or for all of these other things. If it's a readout of just by claim with the preference, but if the data in the system's wrong, as Councilmember Hanrahan is saying that she had to check something for 2020, then it's likely if they give us some kind of an Excel document that has all these claims on it, it's likely the data is going to be corrupted or not reliable. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues here, but part of this too has to do with the fact that for years, nobody wanted to take control of this. So you had in auditor's office that, they're probably in the right, but it's not their role is to process things that come in, but the purchase orders are written by the department head. So this would be, the safety service director. But the safety service director is a member of it. The mayor is a member of it. There's other people that are members of it. And so nobody's wanted to grab this by the horns and try to tackle it.
The safety service director is not a member of it.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm so sorry. I appreciate that.
No, he's not.
So it just seems that there's a complete, there has been a lack of
Not
diligence.
at the present time. He is not a member. I'll just clarify that.
I don't know what that means.
Okay.
So
I got a list of all the people.
It's fine.
I got a list of all of the retirees who are in the plan so that I could mail them the packets.
And that was
I had to sign in blood. I had to set up a secure account, and I can tell you that his name does not appear.
Well, I apologize to him for saying that. So that was my mistake. But so I guess at this point we just got to figure out who is going to take on the horns. I mean, I don't know. I mean, who's going to get this done? Because there actually is a lot of work that has to happen. And I know that Madam President, you've done a ton of work here, but I mean, you're also a part-time elected official as well, and so it's not necessarily your purview to have to do all of this. So, and I know there's not enough resources at the city. I mean, it's kind of like just with the streets. It's just a complete lack of resources to get stuff done that's really needed to get addressed. And so, anyways, there is a lot to get done. I, want to just anything I can do to help, please let me know. It's frustrating to hear all of this now. It's frustrating to, for the retirees that, they've been thrown around. And really for Benovation, it's very confusing of why they chose this moment to get out. And it sounds like they're getting out from other people too. From what I've heard, we were not the only ones that received these notices, but they were about to have a sweetheart deal. They weren't going to have to do a whole lot more these next couple of years because there wouldn't be new things generated. And they were still going to get the same per member per month administration fee to, we were likely going to keep them until the end of those 2 years. I mean, that's what I had kind of heard. And so for them to get out now, it's kind of like, well, silly, you've done all this work over the years, and these last 2 years wouldn't have been all that much extra work. So, but that's their choice. They chose to get out, and we'll work on it. But I just want to make sure that.
Well, it gets worse. I have been emailing back and forth, and they actually had the nerve to ask if these folks can email or give their paperwork to one person in the city or something like that. This might help ensure one person is emailing all the information to one person over here, and we can verify that receipt. That's not our job.
Yeah.
I had a conversation today with Mr. Gary about an email that came through that I don't want to share in the public. There's some personal information in here, but it was appalling to me what they were asking us to do. That's what we're paying them to do. I'm not going to contact people to say, hey, could you do this and that and make sure, that's what you're being paid to do. So.
Yeah, and so just to kind of just finish up, I guess the point there is that I would just encourage the retirees. So if you have claims out there that you feel like you haven't been paid for, just save your paperwork. And I'm sure many of you all have, but save your paperwork, because I'm hoping that in this new process there will be an opportunity for them to resubmit things that they feel like Benevations hasn't paid to the new company when that happens. We'll see if there is an opportunity. I'm hoping that there will be, because I just highly doubt that Benevation, I'm sure they've lost stuff. It's just, there's no way I feel like they've paid everything, and so huge concern of mine, and I just hope we give that opportunity to the retirees.
I need some direction to give to Julie Topol tomorrow or in the next few days, unless you want to wait to.
We're not waiting.
I think we need to, Mr. Thompson.
I would suggest we need to reach out to the other insurance company. What were they called? I can't remember.
S&S Healthcare. It's in the
S&S
letter.
Healthcare. We need to gauge their
Healthcare
interest,
strategies.
which I think you said they are interested in continuing. They've
Yes,
already been
according to
doing
their
it.
letter, they wish to continue in that
And
capacity.
apparently they've already been doing it for the last 9 months anyway, so seems like a no-brainer. We connect with them, and I would say the first thing that needs to happen is a conversation of, can they get the kind of data they need from Benevations to be able to not only continue processing claims that we get, but potentially make up for past claims. I mean, that's like number one. After that, I think we can make a more informed decision about whether we want 90 more days with Benevations or stopgap insurance. To me, the big deal is, are they going to really sincerely be able to take over the whole cycle? And if they can, then some of these other things might not be necessary. So for me, that's priority number one.
Mrs. Hanrahan?
Do you know what they would be charging us?
I do not, and she doesn't either. I mean, she's, like I said, she left messages with them.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Bonsall.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. So, for me, I personally think this S&S sounds like the right way to go. I mean, I'm hoping that they will have everything they need to continue to go on November 1st, and if they don't, I hope we can get it from Benevations, whether that's through a field trip or what have you. But I really I wouldn't want to see Benevations extended at all. Like, I feel like that it's time to just cut loose with them, if there's any viable way to do it, I think we should. I just don't want to give them another dime, personally, but that's just my opinion. I'm fine, though, with exploring the stop loss if the safety service director feels that's the right way to go while he's evaluating. Again,
I don't think the safety service director had an opinion. He just said talk to Julie, and when I talked to Julie Topol, she was the one who said, you haven't had, I don't think there was any claims on it the last year, maybe year and a half.
Okay, so that's the issue too, the stopgap you're talking about.
For the
there.
stopgap.
Okay, or stop loss, yeah.
Or stop loss, yeah.
Yeah, so that one there, my recommendation would be for us to not continue it. And if we can put that money aside, I don't know if that's possible, but to do that, I don't know if there's any reason to, because it's never had a claim that's had to be paid out, and if there's only one person, the $44,000 over the 2 months will likely more than cover anything that could possibly come up. So that's my opinion there.
Mrs. Hanrahan.
Should we put this into committee of the whole? Have Julie come and talk with us? Would she come and talk with us?
I think you're welcome to do that, but I think what she needs is some direction as to how to proceed from here. What I'm hearing from you all is that you want her to contact S&S to see, yes, we definitely want them to do the 2018 claims, but to also confirm with them that they would be willing to take on all the unpaid claims and that they can get that information from Benevation. Obviously, they have a relationship with them, so hopefully if there were questions, they would still be able to contact them.
Well, you'll be getting that information, and I just would hate to see this wait for the next 2 weeks to the end of October for our next meeting for us to get all the information.
I think once she contacts them and has a better understanding, perhaps we could call a special meeting
Okay.
to make sure that we give her that I mean, she can come back with specifics. I would hope that if SNS Healthcare Strategies can do it, that I would like to have an ordinance or a resolution or whatever on the agenda at the next meeting to enter into that contract so that there's not, a stop in coverage.
And I also,
Excuse me.
just being told this at the spur of the moment, think that saving $44,000, I don't think that's a bad idea.
To not do the stop loss.
And I'm just saying that right now because I've just been given these options. It might, so I'd like to think forward, but at this point.
And I'm certain that she could either come to the next council meeting or we can call a special meeting. I'm more than happy to call a special meeting on this. I think it's important that we get it done.
And
we
she
need
might
to
have
convey
all
it.
the information. You might get all the information from her clear and she wouldn't need to be here.
I wanted to make sure that you got the correct information, all of the information in public, so that you know what's going on, and, we talked about options. So I will convey that if my understanding is that you want me to let Julie Topol from Haran know that we want her to pursue the SNS Healthcare Strategies, excuse me, to continue to do the 2018, and to ask if they could continue to do the back payments or anything that was left unpaid, to get that information from Benovation and to do that as part of their coverage. I will also ask Julie to confirm the number of claims, if any, on that stop loss policy, and information as to how much it is per month. If we need to continue it for 2 months, is it still the $22,000, or do they charge us more, or whatever? I will ask her to get that information and report back as soon as possible. Is that correct? Is that kind of what I'm hearing from you? Yes, Mr. Braden.
That sounds appropriate, Ms. Lake. Thank you, Madam President. I have a question. We had Mr. Slotman here a few months back. Do you remember what month that was? Does anybody?
It was June or July.
July, maybe?
I don't remember him mentioning anything about SNS Healthcare. Did he bring that
Nobody
up?
did. Nobody knew that they were backdoor,
Deception?
back office.
That's very funny that wasn't even mentioned to me. I don't know what the reason would be for that, but I don't remember that being mentioned. So that was just something that came to mind. I wanted to bring that up. Thanks.
Mr. Bonsall?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I'd agree with everything that you said. I would just add, or I'd want to make it explicit that we would want to be able, so with this contract, we would want to be able to invite beneficiaries to resubmit claims that they feel like did not get paid, and we would expect that SNS would be able to identify whether they were paid or not. So whatever it takes for them to do that, whatever data they need, I think that needs to be part of it, that they need to be able to resubmit.
Thank you. I agree. I'm hoping that they will just transfer all of that information electronically over to SNS, but we'll see. Mrs. Hanahan.
Thank you, Madam President. And this is about the C9, or about what the new benefits. I've had several calls. I talked to Mrs. Lake today about this. People don't understand what happened. They're not getting that. They don't understand that they are no longer going to be covered with any kind of insurance. And I just want to let people know that when we go to the new health care plan, there is no insurance. There is no insurance coverage. You're going to get your allotted amount of money. If you want to buy insurance or do whatever with that money, that's fine. But the insurance as of January 1st will be completely gone. And I've had several calls, and I was surprised that so many people were confused about this.
And what is additionally confusing is that the Police and Fire Pension Fund has mailed out information as well, because they are no longer providing them insurance. They're providing them a stipend for insurance, and so all of this is coming at the same time. If you are a retiree, if you're a police and or fire retiree, all of that information is coming at the same time. So it is very confusing. The folks that I have talked to, and believe me, there were many, who called me, or Bob Gatto, or Dave Walters, who have been involved in this from the beginning, and Mrs. Hanrahan. I can tell you that the folks that I've talked to, when I explain the new policy to them, they're like, thank God I don't have to submit anything again. And in some cases, it may be better for people. The $2,250, and some people don't have the dental and vision, and so some people are maybe a little better off with the $3,500. Others, maybe not. But my comment has been, I've dealt with Benovation for 2 years, and I don't know how you have done it for all these years, because it is very frustrating. And you go from person to person who eventually answers you. So I will convey that. I'm sorry that this conversation took so long, but I thought it's important that we get it right. The other thing I have under unfinished business is on your desks, you have a new copy of the auditor's 5-year forecast. He was not missing funds 2 and 3 when it was copied for your packet. His report was back-to-back pages, and it was not copied back-to-back. So page 3 and 5 were missing because of the way it was copied and sent out. So the new packet, you have the new packet with funds 2 and 3 in it. So I told you I'd follow up on that, and I did. Is there any other unfinished business? Mrs. Hanrahan.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want everybody to know, last week we had Kathy DeNovo here. She spoke. I did visit Ms. DeNovo at her home. She wasn't ignored, and I'm currently working with her on her issues. Thank you.
The lady from Allison? Thank you, Thank you, Mrs. Hanrahan. Mr. Braden.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to bring it up again. Mr. Stiff kind of got down the road for that page 3 and 5 being missing there, so I want to just go ahead and mention that. It was not Mr. Stiff's error, and I want to bring that out there.
Thank you, Mr.
Braden. I don't want that to
Braden.
be missed. I know he got a pretty rough road for that, so.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Braden. Any other unfinished business? Any new business? Mr. Thompson.
Yes, we're going to be having a Parks, Rec, Streets, and Infrastructure Committee meeting. That is a long committee name. I need to figure out a way to anagram that here. We're going to do this October 23rd, which is actually our next council meeting day, but we're going to do it in front of the council meeting, try at 6:15.
Okay, so the Streets, Parks, and Infrastructure Committee meeting, October 23rd, here in council at 6:15. Okay.
We'll plan for it to be about an hour, so we'll finish up in time for council.
Okay.
Just thought it would be easier for everybody to attend that way, especially getting into later in the year. So.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Yep.
Any other new business? Mr. Bonsall.
Thank you, Madam President. So I just wanted to let Norwood residents know that there's going to be a new event in Norwood called the Gym of the Highlands 5K. And that is going to happen on Saturday, November 10th. It's going to start at 8:30 a.m. It's going to start and end right in front of Brick Coffee, right there at Floral Avenue near Smith Road. And so it's going to be a really cool event. I mean, they imagine this being one of just the signature events that happens in the city every year, similar to Christmas Town and similar to the fireworks down at Waterworks. That this is just one of those events in the parade that they see this as something that residents can look forward to and participate in, and non-residents alike. The registration for the race is $25. You can register at norwoodrun.com or just find more information, the course map. You can be a walker, you can be a runner, you can bring a stroller with you, you can bring a dog with you, just clean up after your dog. But it's going to be a really fun event. They've gotten quite a few sponsorships already, and I am excited for them to announce some of them that have stepped up. I think it's going to make the residents very proud when they hear some of the people that have helped to make it happen. So, and then the people that are creating it too, I mean, they've really worked very hard doing this, and so it's, I don't have all of their names, but the dedication they put into it, and one of them, I think their husband is the race director for the Flying Pig half marathon, so, or both of them, I'm not sure, but he definitely does something with Flying Pig, so he's not getting paid Flying Pig dollars to do this. I think he's just volunteering to help out, but it's going to be very professionally run. And then after the race, there's going to be the off-pike market is going to be set up right on Floral Avenue between Smith and Washington. The street's going to be blocked off. It's just going to be a big street party. And I'm not sure the exact times of that. Mr. Clark, feel free to chime in if you do know. But yeah, it's going to be just a really great event that morning and early afternoon. So really encourage everybody to come out. And again, that's November the 10th. 8:30 starts the race, but the off-pike market, I think, probably has hours like 10 to 1 or something like that, maybe 10 to 3. We'll get those exact hours for everybody, but it should be really fun, and I hope that many people can come out on November 10th. Thank you.
Any other new business? Okay. We have one communication that is from Mayor Williams regarding Mayor's Court fines.
Dear Madam President and members of council, enclosed, please find the report for Norwood Mayor's Court for the month of September 2018. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, Thomas F. Williams, Mayor, City of Norwood.
Mr. Clark.
Move to receive and file the letter.
Seconded by Mr. Thompson. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bonzo.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Hanahan.
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yes, sir.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. We do have 2 absent members. Mr. Breeden.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse our absent members.
Seconded by Mr. Bonsall. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bonzo.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Hanahan.
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yes, sir.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. Mr. Breeden.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded by Mr. Bonsall. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bonzo.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Hanahan.
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yes, sir.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. This meeting is hereby adjourned.